the tools that you can use for this. So when I think of tools, I think of it in three separate ways. I think of it as delivery, and I think of it as content, and then the responses. And you're going to notice there's a lot of tools here under each one, and some of them cover across all. So for instance, Google Classroom, a simple LMS, and it doesn't have to be Google Classroom. It could be Schoology, it could be Canvas. But this delivery system allows you to interact with students. So you can deliver content, you can post things and they will see it. And then they will see the content and they'll be able to respond. So that's why Google Classroom is across all three. But let's just focus on delivery so you can understand. So there's many options. So you have Google Classroom, you could deliver via the stream, you could deliver any type of information to them via the classwork. You can also set up meetings, so using Google Meet within this realm. So if you didn't use Google Classroom, I guess you could still use Zoom and use the chat in there to be able to post assignments or give them things to do. But Zoom is a video meeting application that can be on a phone, it can be on the desktop, it can be just in the browser or on a Chromebook. But again, delivery there is great because you're doing it synchronous, you're having that video right away and it's live, so you're able to interact with them. You could also just use mail. That's another way to deliver your email, deliver that to students. Or if you're just showing a presentation and you want students to be able to interact with you during the presentation, you can turn on the Q&A inside of slides. So this is just delivery, how you're delivering what you're doing. So whether it's presentations, live video, or through Classroom. So the next thing we want to talk about is content. So when I think about content, you have anything you may post in classrooms, and within that you're going to have dozens of things. You're going to have like videos, and you might post videos for them to watch and respond or answer questions or things like that, or maybe part of their assignment is to write something, so maybe they have a doc that's associated with that. Or if you use something like Edpuzzle, which is an add-on or an extension that you can get to put right in YouTube, and it makes it Edpuzzleable. So what happens in Edpuzzle is it allows you to put quizzes and embed them directly in the video. So after a certain amount of minutes, you can ask them a question or have them focus in on a certain part of the video that you want. And it's all trackable through Google Classroom and Edpuzzle itself. Another thing that people may not use as much, but I think is a great way to display content or to create content and put it on them themselves, is Google Sites, because it just allows all of these things to be embedded in there, whether it's your own videos, whether it's a Pear Deck, a Flipgrid, any of this content can all be embedded in there. So it's not quite like Classroom because there's not going to be a stream. It's not going to be a series of events, although you could do something like that. You could even embed your stream events in there. You could even post a calendar within it. But it's going to be able to be focused on particular things. So I would use it more for grouping content together and having one place that they all go. Even though Classroom does have a resource area, I think Sites kind of just makes it a little more approachable and easier to kind of see, especially if you're curating information for them, or if they're creating and curating together, they can have this workspace. Slides, again, just presentations, being able to do presentations in so many different ways. Pear Deck kind of loops in there with slides because it's a way to make those slides interactive, asking questions in the middle of the slides, similar to what I talked about with Edpuzzle. So Pear Deck is a whole new realm if you've never used it, and it allows it to work in slides. And the focus here just has been on Google, but you could easily use Pear Deck inside of PowerPoint, and it would do the same thing. And so it makes those slides interactive, asking questions, having students draw or compose something right there in real time, and you being able to see everybody's screen without them having to hold up a whiteboard or something like that, which brings in whiteboards just as good too. So you have documents. Nearpod is another tool that is like slides with Pear Deck in a way, is that you're able to go through a slideshow and everybody is going through the slide at the same time. So when you move forward a page, everybody else on their screen sees that page too. and they're able to answer questions individually, and you're able to monitor and assess based on those. You could just do the talking head. So you're just presenting. Your content is just as good as any of these other things that you may use to aid it. You have Flipgrid as a way of providing content. You can create these topics in Flipgrid and be able to use those topics to talk about issues, have students give feedback, have students give their answers. They could do screen sharing, they could do videos of themselves, they could interact with them. You can even interact with their videos by commenting on it and doing video responses back. So a lot of flexibility in Flipgrid. And then formative, it's actually Go Formative, but Go Formative is very similar to kind of Socrative and Nearpod and Pear Deck in that it provides content, and it can be student-based or student-paced rather than teachers guiding through. And so it allows them to kind of view the content and look at whether it's video slideshows, and you have questions, and you can kind of tag these questions to particular standards so that you can kind of see what they know and what they don't know. So again, providing the content. And the last part is the responses. And notice there's really not much difference between content and responses. So whatever you can do here on the content side, they can do and create on the other side. So there's a way inside Classroom for them to respond, whether it's an assignment or a question, or maybe there's just part of the stream. Or if you have a doc where people are working on it, you assign a doc that they have to write and create something. Maybe they create their own slide, or they use the Q&A inside of Google Slides and they're asking questions while you're presenting. Maybe you have a form that they fill out, or they go to a formative lesson that you've created ahead of time, and then they're able to respond back that way. You have your, of course, video responses with Meet and Zoom. You could even use Teams for those too, Microsoft Teams. And Pear Deck allows the students to have some response to. And then, of course, sites and the Flipgrid. So students could create their own Flipgrids, or you could have scavenger hunt Flipgrids. There's so much content. And all these tools can be used to make synchronous classrooms work. This doesn't have to be set up so far ahead of time. You could do it on the spot with them. You could do it just a little bit before and tell them it's up, and that could be like their exit ticket or their way out of that class. So now we're going to flip scenes and go to